All right. What's up, y'all? Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service and all at a low price point. Y'all, if you were on pencil and paper or Excel or Google Sheets or something like that, like I think 200 plus thousand restaurants are, um, make life easier for your owner, for your managers who create the schedule, for your team, particularly for the team who these days really expect to have their schedule at their fingertips at all times. And then also listen, if you're on another scheduling software and you're kind of looking through your tech stack and you're looking what you're spending, there are a lot of competitors out there that are worthy competitors that frankly charge about 3 times what we charge for the same thing. So give us a shot wherever at schedulefly.com. We have a 30-day free trial. You can sign up anytime. Our pricing is transparent. It's right there on the website. And my cell phone number is right there on the website. And you are welcome to call me or text me, and you'll get me on my flip phone. And I'm happy to rap with you about Schedulefly anytime. That is enough about Schedulefly. Let's get into Restaurant Owners Uncorked. And my good long time now friend, Peter Waters, who, normally we start these episodes with me asking the guest how they got into hospitality. And if you want to hear how Peter did, you can listen to his last episode because this is a second appearance on this and we got through his history on there. So we're going to kind of get into like just what's going on now. So Peter, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Will. It's a pleasure to be back, and wish we were doing this in person, but this is the next best thing. So it's good to see your face.
Well, if y'all get some snow, then come out there and ski, and we'll do this. We'll do something in person. But I'm really glad to see you. And folks, Peter is he owns Tiaco in Boulder, Colorado, freaking legendary place, and he's a legendary dude. And it has been quite an interesting last year, from what I understand, out in Boulder. Lots going on. What's what? How was 2025 for y'all, Peter? Tell me about it.
It wasn't our greatest year. We are managing a lot of increased operational costs. I think, like many cities across the country, there was a lot of concern early in the year as to what the world was going to look like every morning that you woke up. So we had some people a little hesitant to get out and start spending the way they used to. And we're still reeling from COVID. And maybe not COVID specifically, but the aftermath and kind of the patterns and behaviors that have changed in people's lives, especially when it comes out to dining and spending money. So we're navigating all of that. We took 25 while it wasn't an incredibly profitable year. We took it as an opportunity to do some stuff a little bit deeper in our community. And we joke that if we're not going to make money, we might as well make people happy. So that's kind of been our saying for 2025. Although this year we're excited to kind of get back on track and focus on some broader goals that will reach not only our community, but keep the business happy as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what has been, have people been going out like, so in Boulder? I mean, Boulder's got some of its own unique challenges. I've talked to Dave Dave Query, but are people just, are they going out less, or are they going out as much but spending less? I'm hearing a lot of people talking about customers sharing plates and things like that.
So we're an a la carte menu, so we really don't. People have been sharing plates since we opened, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's a taqueria, it's very simple, but you can very easily scale down from 3 tacos to 2, or maybe forego that second drink or something to that effect. Our per person average comes in around $25, which I still think is incredibly affordable, especially
Sure.
considering cost of living out in this neck of the woods. But that being said, everybody has their own financial guardrails that they try and stay within. And I think one of the things that, and these are all assumptions, and that's what makes this so hard, is that you're out there guessing. And even though you might have a theory that's pretty solid and backing up your hypothesis, it doesn't mean that you're right. So we kind of tread lightly when it comes to predictions and what we think is happening, but we need to head in some direction. And so for us, what I think we're seeing is being a more affordable place. It's more likely for our customers to drop out of our category or our bracket, if you will, and maybe dine at home. That's something that COVID taught people. They had to learn how to cook. They had to learn how to entertain themselves. And it used to be that we were competing with 100 plus restaurants in Boulder. Now we're competing with those same 100 restaurants plus everybody's household, right? So
Mm.
for 6 months, you were locked down and forced to figure out a way to entertain yourself and be your own restaurant. So it's a challenge to get people out of their house. And then it's an additional challenge to compete with the other restaurants in our town. So for us, that's what we've been going after. I think when people in our price range start feeling some economic impact, they are more likely to stay home. And we're not having people that are perhaps in the category above us falling out and landing in our space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Let me ask you this, because I mean, gosh, you go to the grocery store now, and it's like, so if you're going to cook, it's it's like I don't know how much you actually save. A lot of times, it's so expensive just to go buy groceries. At least here in Charlotte, it is. So I mean, you have a very reasonable price point, but you're seeing people that are just still that's a little much, and I guess you also have people that are staying home because they, oh yeah, they're maybe they're. I mean, do you have a lot of DoorDash and Uber?
We do. That is an option. We don't participate it and participate in it as much as other restaurants. Our cost structure just doesn't really allow for it after they take their cut and their slice for what the services that they're providing. But I think what we're starting to see right now, and this is just once again our guess, is 18 to 22-year olds, which is a major market in Boulder because of the campus, is, I mean, that's 40,000 individuals fall within that age bracket, give or take. And they just have different socialization patterns. We've reached out to a number of students and brought them in as part of a focus group program we were running to try and understand their behaviors and such. And they're just living a very different life than what we were used to 6 years ago. They socialize differently. They view restaurants and outings very differently than probably you and I and everybody up until about 10 years ago behaved in college. Alcohol consumption's obviously down at a national level, and that's no different out here. And that kind of plays into the way people plan out their evenings. So that's a big part of it. And we're trying to figure out ways to meet those students where they are and figure out what's important to them. And then you've got 22 to 30-year-old post-college audience, and Boulder has become so expensive from a rent and housing perspective that that audience has all but vanished in town. They just can't afford to stick around after college or move here after college. And then 30 to 50 is sort of your family rearing time for a lot of people in this town. And when you start working from home, not only do we miss out on that lunch business because you're not in an office across the street, but it's really challenging to get somebody out of their house at 4 o'clock to go meet a friend or a colleague or a drink as they're winding down their workday. And you've got this used to be a pattern where people could stop off on their way home, but once they're already home, it's really challenging to say to your spouse, I'm going to go out and meet somebody for an hour of socialization only to return home uh, to an already pretty hectic, chaotic household that requires dinner for your family, etc. So at the end of the day, we went from an 18 to 75-year-old audience demographic down to about a 50 to 75-year-old audience. And that group obviously has the most disposable income based on where they are in their life. And they're not always looking for the convenience and affordability of what we offer. So that's kind of our struggle as it stands today. And we would trying to do our best to get these people back in. We've got a lot of positive things on the horizon here, but for right now, we're just kind of putting our head down and doing the hard work.
You know, the the college age demographic is quite interesting to me. That I've got two kids in college. Um, there's way too much staying in rooms. I mean, like I can't stand this. My son goes to East Carolina, and you can order food, and some like wheeled robot will like there. You see them on campus all the time. It like brings food to your dorm, and I'm like, dude, please do not ever use that. If you can't walk, 300 yards across campus. I mean, he lives right across the street from like the town. Like,
Mhm.
don't do that. I mean, it's just for so many reasons. Like, get out of your room and get fresh air and go socialize and go be around people. It's really concerning to me that what's happened with this confluence of social media, dopamine hits, gaming. Thank goodness, my kids don't gamble. I mean, I've had restaurant owners and bar owners in college towns telling me that the young men don't have any money anymore to go out because they're wasting, they're losing it all gaming, like constantly, right? Like in game bet. And it's just, so they don't have as much money to even go out. It's a tough demographic. They spent, formative years in COVID kind of locked up, not going to school. And there's just a different, like you said, a different type of socialization. But I will say, having kids that age, they recognize it. They all talk about it. They're aware of it. My hope, again, as you said, it's like a theory, but like my hope is that, I don't know how long it takes, but that pendulum went so far that, and it's gone so far with so many things. Like everybody went from like drinking often to just like, I don't drink anymore. Like I hope it starts to kind of swing back because they know they're missing out on so much. I mean, honestly, one of the best things that probably ever happened in that generation is that show Stranger Things that they all watch. And I haven't even seen it, but my whole family is. But it's like, here's what it was like in the 80s. And they're like, wow, was it really like that? It's like, hell yeah, it was. Like, you didn't stay inside. Like, your parents kicked you out and you had to go out and figure out how to meet friends and do stuff. And they're all like, that looks awesome. And, we're all like, well, then just go do it. Like,
Yeah.
get out. Like, go live life.
The analog record player of living, right? And socialization. And I think what's so fascinating about that time and period is that, to bring it back to food, is that dinners were so much more entertaining, right?
Yeah.
Everybody reported back and said, from your parents and their work obligations and such. And the question, what did you do today, was a loaded question. There was going to be opportunity to share experiences and things of that nature over dinner and over a meal. And I think nowadays, I don't have kids, or I have nieces and nephews that fall into that category. But even still, what's the answer to that question? It's like, oh, I was on my phone. I did exactly what I did yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And I think that loop is what is so addictive for a lot of people, yet is so mundane at the same time. And we just kind of find ourselves, it's more of Groundhog Day than Stranger Things, just going through the same repetitive motions. And that's something that we're trying to figure out, how to reach people once again where they are, and give them an opportunity to get out of their house and get out of those patterns and do something different and special.
That's where I think that, and you nailed it, because I can tell you that, like, my own family, I mean, I've got a 10th grader at home now, two in college, but like when they're home over the Christmas break for like, a month, like we would go out mainly just to get ourselves away from all those distractions. Like
Mhm.
it's a lot harder to have the family dinner now at home oftentimes than it is to just be like, we're just going out. Like, let's all go out. Cause when we go out, there are no phones. We're so engaged. And we realize as a family, I'm like, we got to do this more, not less, because it's an investment. To me, even though prices have gone up and all that stuff, to me, that's an investment in our relationship as a family. And it's an investment when you do this with your friends. It's an investment when you do this with, your colleagues or whatever. Like, it's becoming this new thing where it's not just the cost of the bill, but it's, if you look at it like this is an investment in relationships, which we also need desperately now, is more interpersonal connection in relationships. I do think, my guess, my hunch, my intuition is that more people are starting to think of it that way, and that may be a good thing going forward for restaurants like yours, particularly for, you like that 30 to 50 demographic where there are kids and people are like, it's just too much here. We can't even sit down and have a conversation at dinner because everybody's distracted, wanting to go back to their game or their phone or whatever. Like, let's just freaking go out. I hope that will you'll see more of that.
I hope so too. We're at a very unique age where I think we've experienced a lot. I just turned 50 last summer, and we know life before and after the internet, right? We know life before and after the cell phone, the smartphone. And I think that's what gives us somewhat of a unique perspective, right? Where
Yeah.
anybody who's 30 years old, I guess, knows life in a very different way, or younger. So we don't need to get side railed by the AI conversation, but I think people our age see it very differently than young people, right? And to use something as a tool when you know how to do the work yourself is very different than to lean on said tool and it in the absence of ever learning how things actually work or operate. So that's kind of where we're experiencing a massive shift right now. And it's like, how much do we lean into technology? How much can we get more efficient and save on some of those operating costs while still honoring the fact that this is a human run business and that we want to be as effective and efficient as possible for not only the business, but our guests and our fellow staff. So,
Man, that confluence of like humanity and tech and like finding that balance. There is no right answer. It's hard. You need enough to run efficiently, but you can never do it and then lose that connection. And I find that, I mean, most of the places that when we go out, we're just, we just want to go somewhere where they're just nice, and
yeah.
treat us well. And I mean, I talk like, there's just like the little things like that. A lot, again, this generation, I talk to my kids about this, like make eye contact, and not only make eye contact, hold it like a little bit longer than you're comfortable,
Mhm.
smile, like when you talk, smile, like the things that they just, unfortunately being, isolated for so long, a lot of them don't have that skill set. And you also don't have that skill set when you're, walking around looking at the screen all the time. So, but we pick places not because, I mean, the food has to be good, but it's not just the food at all. Really, it's, do we feel welcome? Do we feel appreciated? Do we feel like it matters to them that we're there? Are the server and the manager or owner, are they like present when we're talking to them? These are little things, but like they're so rare these days. I mean, again, I'm a N of one, right? But I mean, we definitely pay attention to that.
Yeah, there's Danny Meyer, who's probably best known now for Shake Shack, but prior to that is one of the top restaurateurs in the history of Manhattan. He has a great quote in his book, Setting the Table, and I share it with every one of our staff. Even I share it in the interview process, actually. So even before we start our training, and it's the restaurant industry is the only industry that allows us to give every human being the first four gifts they ever received on a daily basis. And so when you think about every child, whether it's a dirt floor hut in Uganda or the pimped out suite at the Boulder Community Hospital over here, every baby, every human being that's brought into this world is given four gifts. And it's eye contact, a smile, an embrace, and food. And so
Ah,
every baby is swaddled, wrapped, hugged, looked at in the eye, smiled at, and then stuck a bottle in their mouth, right? And
wow.
what other industry in the world gets to give every human being's first four gifts on a daily basis? And that's one of the things that I'm like, all the books I've read, that's the one quote that just has carried so much weight for me. And I'm so grateful that I get to share with our staff and they get to share those four gifts with everybody who walks in the door. And it doesn't mean that we're hugging everybody. It doesn't mean that we're even high-fiving everybody, but it could be a verbal embrace. But those other things are really simple and easy. Just eye contact, smile, let people know they're warm and welcome, and then give them some food and drink. And to your point about places that what people are really striving for, want these days. And we play this game where we're like, would you rather have good food in the dark or crappy food in a perfectly lit room? And it's kind of how we prioritize what our offerings are at the restaurant, right? And it's like, okay, would you rather have great service and decent food, or would you rather have great food with mediocre service, right? And how important are each element? And so we can kind of put together a hierarchy. And for us, it always lands on customer experience, which is heavily weighted on the interactions that our staff has with our guests. And that creates a recurring environment for guests to return and us to build upon those relationships and those personal experiences with people. And then obviously our kitchen and our bar do a phenomenal job of pumping out great food and drink. But to your point, it's connection and it's people getting to know one another that we find most important in our space.
I love that quote. Um, Setting the table has come up many times on this podcast over the years. And of course, Will Guidera's book, Unreasonable Hospitality, has
Yeah.
come up lately. Similar, I mean, they work together. That's such a great quote, though. I've never thought of it that way. And I love that. People want to feel like you do when you're born, appreciated and safe and nourished. And now more than ever, people want to just feel like they matter. I mean, the one basic human need is just validation, like that somebody thinks you're important, and it's not real hard, particularly now, to pull that off. Like I go to this coffee shop over here in Waxhaw, the Daily Grind, and I mainly just go there. I'm paying. I'm paying more than I would like to pay for coffee, but again, I view it as an investment because every time I go in there, they're nice, they smile, they know me, they care that I'm there, ask how my day is going. That's why I pay twice what I'd like to pay for coffee, just for that. It really is that simple.
And we do something similar where I explain to my staff as soon as they're hired, like, hey guys, we know the check average is going to come in, like we said earlier, around $25 because they order $25 worth of food and drink. Your job is to make that experience feel like $50 by
Yes,
dropping that $25 check. And I'm like, the reason I pay you to be here and the reason we allow you to share in tips and all that, um, which culminates into your take home pay, is because you're here to bring value over the menu price.
yeah,
And that comes from the way that we treat people and the way that we kind of extend ourselves into their lives.
absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of tips and aren't you? What are you at, like $20 tip minimum wage now? Is that right?
We're getting there. And if certain people had it their way, we would be there by now. But right now, the tipped minimum wage a couple weeks ago, January 1, jumped up to 13.80. And then
Okay.
and then regular minimum wage is 16.82. So there's about a $3 difference between the two. Denver, on the other hand, I believe has already gotten to $20. They're rapidly rising, although they're trying to figure out if the plan they put in place makes the most sense for them right now. Um, so there's a lot of discussion around it. It's a really hot button topic because politicians know that they're not going to lose votes by saying people deserve to make more money. The horrible backstory to it is that if a business goes out, can't keep their doors open, they pay their employees $0. And so that's the big
Yeah.
juxtaposition right now. Is like, okay, what's most important here? Is it in total employment or is it dollars that are made by fewer people while they're employed? And that's a question that I'm not in a position to answer on behalf of a society or an industry, but it's something that we're posing to the parties that be. In Boulder, City Council is in control of our minimum wages, and we've had some great conversations, and we're working really hard at a solution that I think will benefit everybody, including the staff, um, and give restaurants the breathing room they need to stay stay in business and stay as an employer in our community. So it's something that we're, like I said, working really hard with. We've got some great city council members in Boulder that are very open minded to getting this right. And at the end of the day, Boulder needs businesses, businesses need employees, and employees need a place to live in Boulder. So we're trying to get that balance and um, that flow to exist and not be interrupted in any way, shape, or form. So
Well, you've got that's an interesting point. You've got some very expensive real estate there. Uh, so it must be hard for employees to live in Boulder or close to Boulder, I would imagine, at an affordable rent. So that's something that the city council is trying to figure out as well.
and that's a really hard thing to fix. To
Yeah.
fix housing prices is almost impossible, right?
Yeah.
At a local level, like they don't even have control over interest rates, as an example. But what they do have control over is the lever at which people are getting paid in the form of minimum wage and everything that builds above that. So I don't fault our council members for wanting to pull that lever. It's just a matter of making sure we pull it in the right direction and um, and that it lines up. Because I mean, the reality is, you'd have to make minimum wage $60 an hour for people to afford to buy a home in Boulder. And if we're not going to make minimum wage $60 an hour, like what what are we accomplishing here? That's not to say that we don't want our employees to live in the area that they work and to be able to have a comfortable lifestyle. But I can tell you right now, everybody was happier 10 years ago. Staff, businesses, employers, um, and I don't know if chasing the real estate market via wage is the right answer. I just don't ever see us catching it at this point. Other changes need to be take place. We need to figure out a way to create affordable housing to some extent. We need to figure out a way to get our community members also living and spending, or our workers living and spending in our community. If we give more hourly dollars to an employee who lives 2 towns over, where's he going to spend that money? Two
Right.
towns over, right? So we've actually solved their hometown's problem, not Boulder's problem. And that's a big struggle right now. And like I said, nobody has the silver bullet answer, but we're trying to figure out ways that we can survive and get by while we understand the issue a little bit better. But it's tough when you see your employees not thriving in the way they did financially 6, 7, 8 years ago. Um, and then the restaurant is in the same boat. And you're like, okay, at what point do you put your oxygen mask on before your neighbors so that everybody can survive? It's not a spot that any of us set out to be in when we got into this business, for me, 13 and a half years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So what do you have on the horizon for 2026? I mean, are you seeing positive momentum in any direction?
We are. We had in 2025, we took a leftover group, if you will, restaurant group from COVID that we had been gathering and putting people together when any anything inconvenient happened. So we had this what we now call a support group, and we rebranded it as a restaurant alliance here in Boulder. And so there's no membership dues. There's no financial buy-in of any way, shape, or form. It's just a group, literally, like I said, of restaurants relying on one another to navigate today's really challenging landscape. And we've got Sundance coming to town in just about a year from today. Um, almost, we'll find out next week what the exact dates are, but it falls at the end of January. We've got a lot of challenges in our community that we're trying to be more proactive with. We've got issues like we talked about with minimum wage, but primarily it's about us figuring out ways to get more involved in our community. And in the past, when items would come up for debate at a city level, it was here comes the restaurants banging their drums for 2 weeks, telling you how awful it is, and then we disappeared. And we're trying to just be a lot more proactive. We want to reestablish our value to the community of Boulder. We organized a couple creek cleanups that were run by restaurant staff last year. We've been um, figuring out ways to support our food insecure families here in town. Tiaco was able to, at the very end of last year, we were working with other restaurants to put together a promotion where we'd be able to make some sizable donations. And then the government shutdown hit. And with that came the freezing of SNAP benefits. So
Mhm.
we actually decided on the fly that there wasn't enough time to waste here and that we wanted to do something immediately. And we just unfortunately didn't have the bandwidth to bring a lot of restaurants along with us. So we were able to identify 50 families that are part of a local school that falls right in our backyard. So these are people who are in some way, shape, or form living what I guess is like a couple mile radius from Tiaco. And we found out that food insecurity in this definition is any household of four that makes less than $50,000 a year, which is a very challenging number to survive, especially in a community like ours.
Sure.
So we, with the help of a local PTA at Whittier Elementary School, were able to identify 50 families, and we donated $1,000 in gift cards to each of the families and had the school distributed them to said families so that these guys could come in somewhat anonymously and just walk in like any other guest and sit down in our restaurant and not only give them the gift of calories, but more importantly, we really, really wanted to give these people an opportunity to come out into their community, sit in a room or in a dining room of a restaurant and look across the way and see another family that they might recognize or a neighbor or a friend and just be part of this thing that we like to claim is so amazing in Boulder, yet not everybody has the opportunity to take advantage of it. So we were blown away. We did this right around Thanksgiving time, and immediately these families started coming into the restaurant and introducing themselves, expressing their gratitude, expressing their thanks. Their kids had handwritten cards that they were handing off to us and our staff, just sh- once again, just expressing their total appreciation for us. And one of the things that we didn't calculate was that we were going to get a chance to get to know a totally different demographic in our community. And it's one thing to give these people a meal and an experience, it's another thing to give them the opportunity to get to know a staff and become a regular almost overnight. So sitting down at these tables, getting to know these people by name, having them come back a week later with 12 of their extended family members that are in town for Christmas that they wanted to take out for a meal and pick up the tab and be able to introduce them, their family that's visiting to the owner of a restaurant and being able to gloat and kind of carry on over these people was just awesome. It really, it, in the 13 and a half years we've been doing this, it's been incredible to have this type of interaction with certain members of our community. So that's the real positive, and that's kind of how we ended 2025 on a high note. And I'll tell you, for anybody out there that's considering pushing the limits of what their donations or their philanthropic kind of bandwidth is, um, gift cards are a really unique way to extend that into the community. Obviously, we didn't have $50,000 lying around to toss out, but we managed to figure out a way that we could do something with these gift cards to benefit families. And we've gotten some really great feedback from the community. And for us, instead of having a sprinkler for a marketing campaign this year, we just said, hey, let's put it all in a fire hose for a few seconds and point it in one direction and really try and benefit the
Mm.
lives of these families, right? Like we could have done a much greater number of families at a much smaller amount, but we really wanted to drop a significant amount of money. And when you think about the term rich, to me, rich means not having to concern yourself with the price of something that you want, right? So you look at something on the shelf and maybe at its most extreme, it's a vehicle or a car, right? But like your ability to walk in and just say, okay, I want that or I need that, and I don't need to check my bank account to see if those dollars are there. And we're never going to be able to make these families rich but we can make them Tiaco rich in that when they walk in with that amount of balance on a gift card, they can sit down and not even think twice. For for about 10 visits, right? Like I told you what our check average was, and it's been just, well, it's awesome. I wish there was a way to kind of respect these families and their anonymity and still share with the world how amazing this can be. And so we've been sharing this story, um, primarily just to let other businesses know that there's a path to really pressing it and really pushing your limits. And I don't think we've ever heard a story about a business that went under because they were too generous with their donations to their community. And that was kind of what we were banking on when we went out and did this. So, yeah, it's been incredible. And on the secondary side of all this, the gift cards can be used as tips, so our staff is benefiting as well. So these people come in, spend $100, leave a $15-20 tip. Obviously, the business needs to reimburse that from a financial or accounting perspective, but we are stoked in that this gift really is just continues to give on not only to people in our community but our staff and then hopefully the business in the long haul.
Dude, what an awesome, creative, thoughtful, just incredible story. That is amazing. And when you talk about, you know, being rich, I think of also just the gratitude you get from being able to do something like that is worth, immeasurable amount of money. I mean, this is what this dude, man, Peter, this is what I love about your industry so much. And people and owners like you that just the amount of care and thoughtfulness that you have for your community is beyond measure. And it's so true with so many restaurant owners. It's why I have so much respect for y'all, because who else does this much in their communities than restaurant owners? I mean, it's truly just. I always say that restaurant owners are almost like first responders, right? If there's and you all have had your share of these things, like if there's a natural disaster or wildfires or whatever it is, you've got your actual first responders, but then restaurants are always showing up.
We're
People,
the second responders.
you're like, yeah, first responders and like 1A for, like,
Yeah.
y'all show up with money and time and food and care, and you give and give and give and give to the community so much. So, I really do believe that restaurants are the beating heart of every community. And, Boulder has a long tradition of being known as just a wonderful, awesome community. You guys are going through some interesting challenges from a lot of perspectives right now. But what is hard to measure and hard to predict is the creativity and the resilience and the thoughtfulness of situations like what you just discussed.
Yeah, we're lucky. Like I said, we've had 13 and a half years in an incredible community, and we've gotten amazing guests, and a lot of them are regulars. And this is one of the other reasons we're sharing this story is so that our patrons know that they're a part of this, right? Like this couldn't have been done if we had an empty restaurant for 13 years, right? And we had this awesome couple that comes in about weekly, and they mentioned they had seen the story somewhere and that they were quick to tell all their friends that that's our taco place. That's our spot. Like, and that to me was as moving as these families coming in and getting to know them. It's just like, wow, we were able to do something that encompassed the greater population and the greater group that is our restaurant. And so, like I said, there's been so much positive that's come out of it, and I almost feel like we should be the ones writing the thank you notes at this point, just based on the experiences we've had. And I really wish we could bottle this up and figure out a way to share it in a different capacity. But podcast discussion isn't a bad start.
Sure, man. Sure. So you trying to think last time. Well, it's been a little bit, but you've gotten married, and we've caught up about that a little bit. I remember I've talked to you a few times when I've called you. You've been walking a dog. You had like a big dog, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the biggest. He is um sorry, give me 2 seconds and I'll
What's his name?
this is Floyd.
Floyd. Yeah. All right. I remember. I remember you. How long have you had Floyd?
Floyd just turned 6 and he's about 6.5, and he is the bane of our existence for sure. Yeah. Let me just where the hell is this camera? I should turn the camera around somewhere. But yeah, that's him sitting on the floor. I don't know. You see him? Anyway, he is about 165 pounds and of just pure love and bark. And he is the reason that we get out of bed every morning, quite literally, as he's allowed to jump in the bed at 5:30 a.m. is the rule. So we don't let him sleep there, but yes,
Is he the Tiaco mascot? Oh my!
he is.
He's
You've
freaking.
heard you've heard about a bull in a china shop. Imagine this dog in a taco shop.
He's beautiful. What kind of dog is he?
He is a Great Dane English Mastiff.
Okay. Great Dane Englishman. Guy's a freaking beautiful dog. Oh, I love it.
He's
Uh,
awesome.
well, nice dogs. We have 3 dogs. Dogs are such great stress relief, and they're just so. I mean, they just talk about like undying, love. I mean, it's just when you're down on yourself, just go talk to your dog.
Yeah, unconditional love to say the least, and plenty of it with this one. But yes, so yeah, that's the other exciting, yeah, only exciting news in kind of our personal life. It's been a quiet year, like you said.
I was going to ask, like, what else you have going on? What I mean, do
We
you?
got married 2.5 years ago, which was exciting. Small little family ceremony back east, and then just honestly, kind of head down and trying to get our restaurant back on track. So um, we said this Thursday or tomorrow, excuse me, I'll be heading out to Sundance to check that out in person. This is the last year that they're doing it in Utah before they come to Boulder next year. So we're heading out for a couple days to just put eyes on the whole festival and try and understand people's behaviors and patterns as they're going through what's been described as some cross between the Olympics and like some type of concert venue. But I'm excited I've heard so many stories, but just want to go out and check it out myself and see what's up.
Why is it moving to Boulder? What
Uh,
happened?
my understanding is that they've outgrown Park City. Park City has one major strip or
Yep.
road downtown, and when that clogs up, there's no real ancillary workarounds. It sounds like it was this beautiful, small, organic film festival that continued to grow and grow and grow in size, but operationally, I think they may have hit their limits out there. I can't answer that question 100%, but this is just speculation once again, based on bits and pieces that we've heard here, and what they're most excited about for moving to Boulder is, I think, the opportunity for greater growth and expansion, and to be able to do a lot more with a slightly larger town that's a lot more accessible during the day and the festival itself. So
Man, that's a big win for Boulder. I
it's
mean,
huge.
yeah,
Well, I mean, there's not a single restaurant in town that I'm aware of that makes money in the month of January. It's just one of those, it's the bottom of the trough financially.
right.
And so to give businesses the opportunity to have a profitable month right in the pit of winter is massive. But then just the soft impact this will have for people to say, oh, looks like Boulder got Sundance. Maybe we'll go check out and see what's so special about that
Yeah.
area. We don't think that movie producers and actors and directors that come in January are going to rush back here in June with their families. It's not that kind of marketing. It's in my opinion, bigger than that and a greater word of mouth experience that I think will benefit us year round. And our goal right now is to figure out how to um, not prioritize, but give preferential treatment to our local community and figure out how to make this really enjoyable. Not just Sundance is coming. We know that's all going to happen and those events are going to be here. But what can we do to make Boulderites feel like they weren't just pushed to the curb for the benefit of some big financial windfall
Mm.
on the heels of a great event like Sundance? So we've got a bunch of ideas, but at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that there's some space carved out for the people that keep us in business 50 weeks out of the year during those 2 weeks that Sundance are here. So um, that's going to be my first and foremost priority in checking out Utah next or in the next couple of days is how we think we can put together a program that makes these locals and regulars of ours feel not so neglected for those 10, 11 days of the festival.
Love that, man. God, love it. I can't wait. Shoot, man, I hope it's not until then that I get out there. I really want y'all to get some snow, man. I can't come out there unless there's some snow. But
I
um,
don't know, man. It's pretty nice sitting on the deck in January in shorts and a t-shirt. And I don't want to fall on the wrong political side of global warming, but right now it seems to be serving us pretty well. So
oh right, because it's warmer, so people are out more.
it's yeah. So it has been a decent winter so far for us, and
Good.
just people
Okay.
getting excited to be outside and
Yeah.
not having to brave frigid temps and icy roads, etc.
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned setting the table earlier, and you and I've talked about books before. Do you have time to read these days? Read anything you like recently, or any other
Honestly,
podcasts you've been listening to?
I just I kind of maxed out. I was on this insane audio kick as I was walking my dog every morning.
Yeah, I remember that.
I For 3 years I was doing about a book a week. So after 150 books, of at least in my personal interest, the well got a little dry. Uh,
Uh-huh.
a good buddy of mine who owns Grove Street Orange Liqueur that we use in the restaurant just dropped off Scott Galloway's new book about notes about being a man, I think is the actual title.
Yeah, I've heard of that dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I listened to his, I've jumped into more podcasts recently, just trying to stay on top of things as there's so much news funneling our way in the last 2 years. But yeah, I don't know if you have a chance to listen to any of his podcasts, he's got a few of them out there. His insights on humanity are just mind blowing right now. And he talks a lot about the economic markets and stuff, which even if you're not that into the stock market, it's good to understand how markets kind of drive the world and people's behaviors. But he's had some incredible insights and stuff that we talked about earlier with people just not socializing the way they once did. And something like 45% of men between the ages of 18 and 24 have never asked out a woman on a date in person. That doesn't mean they're not going out on dates. It just means that they're turning to these rejection proof sites that they can swipe and move on. And it's socially, that's an issue, I guess, to be concerned about. But in the bigger picture, it's like what happens when people who aren't accustomed to rejection turn 30 and are being looked at in certain organizations and businesses to lead and take chances and go out and be innovative. And what happens when we have a whole generation of people that just aren't as in tune with um, that kind of what it takes to get to the next level out of fear that they might be let down or rejected.
That probably doesn't set a lot of, it's a little bit concerning for the future state of entrepreneurship. If you are anxious about
Yeah.
getting rejected by, somebody asking somebody out on a date, then
Yeah.
imagine.
If you can't do it in a bar at midnight, how are you going to do it at noon in a boardroom, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Scott Galloway. I've definitely heard of him. I have, some of my buddies have sent some of his like, clips or whatever, on our text string. What's his like, where does he work or what's his story? Is he a professor?
Um, he is a professor now, but that's sort of his give back. He I guess his most notable claim to fame was redenvelope.com. He started that way back in the day, and he's probably in his mid 60s now. But he was an investor, and he worked on Wall Street for a hot minute, and he seems to have made all his money either working as a entrepreneur or investing in the right opportunities. And he's one of these guys who says, I hit my number and everything above that number goes back into society. And he's great about giving back and donating. But he's also very bold and bullish about describing his social life. So it's not entirely virtue signaling.
Yeah.
So he, yeah, and I think that's one of the things you can respect is he's not pretending like he's not on a private jet. He's not pretending like he's living in a 2-bedroom apartment. He talks very openly about his successes and about his lifestyle, but he also talks about how people in his tax bracket should be paying a lot more in taxes and that we're experiencing the greatest transition of wealth from young to old that we've ever seen in the United States right now. So a lot of bigger, heavier global issues, but just a really bright-minded guy who's not afraid to speak his piece, and um, which I find a little welcoming these days.
Well, there seems to be this, what do they call it? Like a K-shaped, transition happening where like a small percent of people own all the wealth and the assets and everything else. And, then there's a giant percent that, don't. And it's tough. I mean, if you don't, like, I mean, again, I got a 21-year-old daughter, like she's in her 4th year in college, and all these kids, they're having a hard time getting jobs, and, they're
Yeah.
coming with skill sets that may not match what the marketplace needs. And then, meanwhile, like, rent and food, everything's so expensive now. It's tricky. I mean, it really is. Uh, that's not something you can control as a business owner, but it is something to be aware of and try to understand so you can make smart decisions. I mean, you kind of have to think through that.
Yeah. One of the things he promotes is that I think it's roughly 10% of the US population is responsible for 50% of the spending in our country. So the top 10% are spending half the money that is circulating in our economy at a
Top
national level.
10% or
Top
spend.
10%. And then it's something like 2% is responsible for 25%. So I think it's 2% is responsible for 25%, and then 8% is responsible for the next 20 or quarter% or quarter of our spending. So when you start looking at it that way, it's like, good God, it's no wonder the super high end sushi, steakhouse, fine dining, white linen, Italian restaurants are doing well right now. It's because there's so much wealth captured in that top 10% of society. And that's insanely problematic. Especially if you're trying to sell $5 tacos. um,
Well,
yeah,
get them with supply. Make a $500 taco, man. You'll probably sell them. I mean, it's like just because like you,
presented in a gold box, and yeah, and
yeah, golly, yeah. Well, that is, man. I mean, I think I may have thought about like I eat a lot of beef, like a lot of beef, but I buy a quarter of a cow from my like second cousin. He's got a beef cattle farm in here in North Carolina, and twice a year I buy a quarter of a cow, which is like somewhere between 160 and 180 pounds, but I buy it for 5.25 a pound. I mean, and that includes it's like 60 to 70% ground beef, and the rest are different cuts. Dude, I go to a store. I mean, go to a store now. It's like a ribeye is like $25 for like, it's like the beef prices are absurd. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to these nice steakhouses, you better come loaded because You're not going to, I mean, buy a $75 steak that costs $30 like 5 years ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's back to the whole affordability crisis that we're dealing with and trying to navigate and figure out how to be a place that can provide for everybody in our community, right? And be that spot that people can still come in and we do a Taco Tuesday special, for instance, where it's $3, $2.95 tacos all day and night. And it's just a great way to bring people back out and get them excited about dining out again. And last night we had an awesome crowd that unfortunately the 8 o'clock hour hits and everybody tapers off. So that's another issue that we're facing is that COVID kind of trained people to eat between 6 and 7:30 and that's it. And while we're busier during those time periods, we're not seeing that third or second and a half turn of the restaurant, which as you can imagine, once you're up and running, that's kind of how businesses make their money, right? Because you've had kitchen staff that's been there since 5:30, 6 a.m., and you just need one more turn and to pay people an extra hour to stick around for what could be a third of your revenue for the day is great until that audience dries up and um, back to that behavioral issues that we're experiencing with people of all ages.
So you think COVID trained that? It's not because people are not drinking as much, so they're not hanging out. Oh, but you're talking about table turns, so that wouldn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, and but to your point, like if you show up, yeah, I think that plays into it a little bit. Not nearly as much as when
Yeah.
people were told to stay home for 6 months straight. They ate when they wanted to, and it turns out they always wanted to eat at 6:30. 7 o'clock, and it's wild to be on a half-hour wait at 7:15, and then at 7:45 you have a half full restaurant, and just how quickly the drop off will occur.
Really?
And I know mathematically it doesn't make sense, but yeah, people at 7:15 are walking away from a half-hour wait and not sticking around, and then all of a sudden everybody gets up and walks out, and you're like, how did this just happen? Where we were just at a surplus 15, 20, 30 minutes ago, and now we're like completely vacant. So all things and struggles and challenges that we're trying to navigate. We're introducing things like end of night happy hour for the last hour of service to encourage people to show up later. And so um, nothing that's actually hitting right now, home run, but we're we're not afraid to keep swinging the bat, so to speak.
Love that, man. Oh, brother, it is great catching up. I am
You too, man.
disappointed it's not in person, but I'm grateful. This is
We'll
a
figure that out.
technology that took off during COVID, and this is a good thing about something like this. So, um,
Well, my
that's
in-laws are not too far down the road. They used to be in Waxhaw, and they just moved a couple towns over the border. But next time we're back there, we'll definitely get to do one of these in person.
your in-laws are here?
Yeah, they were in Waxhaw, and now it's Lancaster area, but they just
Yes.
moved across the North Carolina border to South Carolina.
Yeah, Lancaster. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Saved on some taxes, probably got a little bit more land.
yeah,
So dude, you gotta let me know when you come see
yeah.
them. We're right here for sure. I mean, interestingly enough,
Mhm.
the coffee shop I mentioned, the Daily Grind,
Yep.
their first location was Lancaster, and then they just opened here in Waxhaw, and so they
Right.
just got those two, and we are proud to serve them as well. They're a Schedule Fly customer, so
Awesome.
and proud to serve y'all. We appreciate y'all, obviously, very
Yeah.
much.
Well, we're always excited to get an opportunity to catch up, buddy. It's always so fun to be able to do these, and I appreciate you thinking of us. And we'll figure out a way to, like I said, make the next one in person.
If you come out here, you better let me know. I will drive to Lancaster. I will come hang out with you. For sure. It's not far away. Uh, folks, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Always just a quick reminder. If you're listening to this, just take 5 seconds, give us a 5-star rating. A comment would be helpful too on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. The more ratings we get, the more the algorithms put awesome content like this out there. And how many people would you like to hear the story of what Peter and his team at Tiaco did with those gift cards? I mean, what a brilliant idea that any restaurant could replicate. Like, that's massive value and why we do this podcast, to share great ideas. We started this podcast to educate and inspire, and this has been educational and inspiring. And this is now 16 years. This March will be 16 years since we started this thing, and I've never not finished an episode feeling educated and inspired. So this is episode 650 something, and hit the mark, of course. So thank you, Peter. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, Schedule Fly, and we'll catch up, like I said, in person soon.
See y'all.